Good morning. I'm Hassan Giordano, and this is your DMV Daily Dose for Wednesday, March 25th, 2020.
It's currently raining and 45 degrees in Baltimore. Expect cloudy skies starting tonight. Temperatures will be fairly consistent, averaging about 44 degrees.
Well, the White House and Senate leaders of both parties struck an agreement last night on a sweeping $2 trillion measure to aid workers, businesses, and a healthcare system strained by the rapidly spreading coronavirus outbreak, the Associated Press is reporting. The agreement came after days of intense haggling and mounting pressure and still needed to be finalized in detailed legislative language. Top White House aide Eric Uland announced the agreement in a Capitol hallway shortly after midnight this morning. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are done," he said. "We have a deal." The unprecedented economic rescue package would give direct payments to most Americans, expand unemployment benefits, and provide a $367 billion program for small businesses to keep making payroll while workers are forced to stay home. The package was aimed to combat what Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has called the most serious threat to America's health in over a century, and quite likely the greatest risk to America's jobs and prosperity that we've seen since the Great Depression. Yet, even as the public health crisis deepened, President Donald Trump expressed eagerness to nudge many people back into the workforce in coming weeks and held out a prospect based more on hope than science that the country will be returning to normal in less than a month. Now, the package, a one-time payment of $1,200 per adult and $500 per child, would go directly to the public under the proposed legislative package. Now, it is also dependent on the person's income. A huge cash infusion for hospitals expecting a flood of COVID-19 patients grew during the talks of the insistency of Senator Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader, while Republicans pressed for tens of billions of dollars for additional relief to be delivered through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as FEMA, the lead federal disaster agency. Democrats said that the package would help replace the salary of furloughed workers for 4 months rather than the 3 months first proposed. Furloughed workers would get whatever amount a state usually provides for unemployment, plus a $600 per week add-on, with gig workers like Uber drivers covered for the first time. Companies would be able to defer payment of the 6.2% Social Security payroll tax as well. Now, the Baltimore Sun is reporting on Maryland's fourth death from the new coronavirus, which was confirmed yesterday, with the announcement coming on the same day that the state reported 61 new cases of the virus, its highest single-day increase. A Prince George's County man in his 60s who suffered from underlying health conditions was the state's fourth coronavirus-related death, the Maryland Department of Health announced yesterday afternoon. 3 of Maryland's 4 deaths were men in their 60s with underlying health conditions, with 2 in Prince George's County and the other in Baltimore County. A Montgomery County woman in her 40s who also had underlying medical conditions was announced Saturday as Maryland's 3rd death. The total number of cases statewide reached 349, a 21% increase over Monday's totals when Governor Hogan ordered the closure of Maryland's non-essential businesses. And at that time, the total was 288 cases. The 61 new cases represent the state's biggest one-day jump to date, said Mike Ritchie, Hogan's spokesman. 4 of the cases are people under the age of 18, up 1 from Monday. More than 80% of Maryland's confirmed cases are in people between the ages of 18 to 64, who represent 283 of those cases. The remaining 62 cases are those who are 65 and older, the group that is considered most at risk to the virus. Montgomery County has the highest number of cases as of Tuesday at 107, rising from 93 reported on Monday. Prince George's County saw the largest increase among counties with 16 new cases, bringing its total to 63 confirmed cases. Baltimore County has 42 confirmed cases, one more than Baltimore City's 41. Now, it's unclear how many tests for the virus Maryland is administering daily, as it is one of a few states not yet reporting those numbers, though health officials did early on in the outbreak. Now, after Baltimore City School CEO Sonia Santelides sent out a robocall and email to parents yesterday, indicating that schools would remain closed because of the coronavirus pandemic at least through April 5th. Now, students who have been off since March 16th were originally supposed to return on Monday. And according to Maryland Matters, the Maryland State Board of Education voted unanimously yesterday to extend the contract of outgoing State Superintendent of Schools, Karen Salmon, who has been leading the state's public school response to the COVID-19 outbreak. 2 weeks ago, state officials announced that public schools in Maryland would be closed at least through March 27th. While the board received an update from Salmon on efforts to provide free meals and maintain continuity in children's lessons plans as they study from home, it was not announced Tuesday whether schools will remain closed any longer. Now, the state of Virginia announced on Monday that public schools there would remain closed for the rest of the school year. Now, at a news conference on Monday, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan said an announcement on further school closures will be made soon, but additional details were not made available as of yesterday. He does have a news conference scheduled for 11 a.m. today and is expected to have more to say on the school year then. Now, speaking of Governor Hogan, union officials representing correctional officers and other frontline employees in the prisons across the state of Maryland are sounding the alarm and calling on him to do more about the inadequate protections for staff and inmates against COVID-19. American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, otherwise known as AFSCME, Maryland Council 3 President Patrick Moran said Sunday that social distancing protocols among inmates basically do not exist. At the same time, he said the staff are expected to act as medical care professionals with little to no training, and screening processes appear to be inconsistent. Quote, "Our members are very frustrated about this," Moran said. They're worried because they're in a confined environment. Now, on Saturday, a prison guard at Eastern Correctional Institution in Somerset County said her body temperature was taken for the first time at work since the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in the state on March the 5th. Friday was the first time she was asked to complete a health questionnaire to gain entry into the building. Now, according to Maryland Matters, Monday was the first day that guards were asked to keep 6 feet away from colleagues when entering or exiting the gatehouse, which staff is required to pass through for shifts. Quote, "The governor had said no groups of more than 10 people, yet they're still feeding groups of 250 to 300 inmates at a time," Moran said. "They're at these little round tables with 4 people at each table and 3 feet away from one another. They're all waiting in line to get their food and moving en masse from their wing unit to the chow hall." Now, while the state has made some provisions to mitigate large group gatherings among inmates, those changes seem to have fallen short of what Governor Larry Hogan is requiring of the rest of the state. At ECI, for instance, group sizes have decreased from 96 to 48 inmates when they go outside for recreation. Now, the whole unit goes to lunch and their meals at the same time, and that's 150 to 160 people at a time on each side of the dining hall. In a previous statement, officials from the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services said every effort is being made to educate inmates, visitors, and staff about the precautionary efforts being made to reduce transmission of any communicable illness within state prisons. Now, standard guidelines for prison personnel and inmates were established at the beginning of the onset of the coronavirus by state officials. They include washing hands, often with soap and warm water, for 20 seconds, covering coughs and sneezes with a tissue, sleeve, or elbow, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched objects and surfaces, avoiding close contact with people who are sick, and for guards only, using alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol if soap and water is not available. However, prison reform advocate Kimberly Haven says that inmates can't have hand sanitizer because it has alcohol in it, while the non-alcohol option is not available and not useful. They have to buy their own soap in the commissary, and the state is not paying for soap, whereas though there's a lot of inmates who are indigent. Now, a spokesman for the Public Safety Department did not respond to those requests for comment for the article, seeking current prison policies and data on sick patients in the system. Previous requests to interview prison wardens were also declined, as were requests for detailed examples showing how the state plans to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 behind the walls. Quote, "If we don't have tests in the free world, you know damn well they're not going to be testing on the inside like they should be," Haven said. While everyone is afraid, it's heightened that much more in prison because you can't control it. The medical care there already sucks. They are correctional afterthoughts, the inmates and the staff. Well, the Baltimore Brew is reporting on Southeast Baltimore Company that has long serviced the city's fleet of cars and trucks, which is set to be debarred Wednesday afternoon, later today, after being found to have committed various acts of fraud. Halliburton Fleet Service Trans-Tech Transmission Center and its principals, President Lawrence Ward and General Manager Danielle Foy, are to be stripped of 8 current city contracts and prohibited from future work for at least 5 years following an investigation by the Office of the Inspector General. The Board of Estimates is set to act on these recommendations at its meeting today, according to the panel's agenda reviewed by the Baltimore Brew. Inspector General Isabel Mercedes Cummings declined yesterday to confirm or deny any investigation into the contracts, which has not yet resulted in a published report. However, according to the city law department, Halliburton Fleet Service has been cheating on a service contract that was awarded in 2014 by then Mayor Stephanie Rawlins Blake's administration and extended across 2 subsequent administrations until it was terminated on February 3rd, 2020. That contract, hydraulic and welding repair service, was originally awarded for $2.5 million. Now, Larry Ward, the owner, vehemently denied the city's charges and said that he was unaware of the debarment proceedings until late yesterday. "I had to send emails to Jack Young to tell him that no one in legal or purchasing will respond to me. I am totally in the dark about what the hell is going on," he says. Over time, the hydraulic contract was renewed and the company invoiced the city 700 times, picking up more than $10 million in taxpayer money, according to the law department, that included various false and fraudulent billings. They included payments for services that the vendor did not perform, inflating the cost of services that were performed, and inflating the cost of parts and equipment. In addition, the vendor submitted invoices for goods outside the scope of the contract at a falsely inflated cost that are unusable by the city. According to the law department, sources tell the brew that they involved snowplows sold by Halliburton that were incompatible with city vehicles. Well, I'm your man, Mr. Politics, and this has been your DMV Daily Dose for Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. As always, make sure you stay safe. Remember social distancing, stay home and work from home if at all possible. And remember that we are always here to assist. For more information on the articles that I've mentioned, just go on over to their website at www.dmvdaily.news.